6 years ago in Japan, I found a car and purchased a car that I think kind of changed the trajectory of this channel and, in some ways, of my love of older nuggety cars.
Your love for Nissans, and you have in some ways the ultimate Nissan, but it wasn't ultimate enough, so we RB26 swapped it.
Yes.
New driveline, excellent handling mods, just a very, very nice car.
Now, you may know this story already, but I was trying to get an R34 GTR from the auctions. One of them was for sale. It got up to like $70,000. I'm like, no idiot would ever pay that much, so I opted out. Now some of them are worth $500,000, but instead I reoriented my trajectory and went, what else can you get that's mad in this? And we found this for about $40,000. We brought it in. There's a whole series on it. It was absolutely amazing. I loved it. I love the car, but unfortunately, we have come to a point where the car needs to go to a new phase of its existence.
True.
And unfortunately today, for reasons that I will explain, the engine has to come out, which is a big job. But I'm very lucky that I've got a good friend who is talented, clever, lovely, knows how to build engines, has made more cars than you will ever make in your life, knows more about turbochargers than you will ever know in your life, is hugely respected in the industry, has been on YouTube for years and years and years, someone I love and adore and would really consider my best mate. Everybody, I'm very, very excited that Al's here. Run the graphics. Let's take that. Al, can I put this on you?
That's my mic.
You don't need that.
What do you mean I don't need that? What do you mean I don't need it?
Can you just put that up on the... Yep.
I thought we were working on your 240.
There we go.
Pulling the engine out.
Yep, there it is.
You got his
secret hand.
You got his nipple piercing.
I'll do that. All right, and we'll just get you in your pocket there, and then can you just stand just there? Can you move over a little bit and just move over that way? Just there. Cool. All right. Does that look good, your side? All right. Okay. Welcome to another episode of Mighty Car Mods. I'm here with Al. Thank you so much for coming down. It's lovely to see you again. We're pulling the engine. We're pulling the engine out.
Yep.
And throwing most of it in the bin. What is the first step?
Jack the car up,
Yep.
bonnet off,
Yep.
undo stuff.
Okay.
What's wrong with old mate?
I don't know. He's Devo. It's a good shot. It's a very good shot. You got me in the face almost every time. All right, so bonnet off.
Undo bolts,
Remove everything.
extract.
Okay.
Yep.
And then
Then we'll work out what we're going to do.
what's going in the bin?
Oh,
Which is some of it or a lot of it?
That's up to you.
Okay. Well, thank you very much for coming down. Thank you very much for being here. Al has been a long-time friend of the show and is one of the most talented humans in automotive that I've ever met.
Al is a long-term friend of
Ours. Of ours.
of mine.
It's not a fight. Anyway, first step, let's jack up the car. This was an absolutely huge project when we embarked on it over 6 years ago and has become one of the most iconic builds of this channel. But now it is time for change. The 240Z itself was a game changer when it came to sports cars of its era because it challenged Porsches with more power and at a cheaper price point in the 70s. And that is just one of the reasons they've become so iconic, along with the RB26 that we've got powering it, which is one of the most well-known engines of all time due to its association with the GTR. This car is a beautiful combination of new and old, a stunning rendition of classic sports car with modern-day power, with upgraded suspension and braking, and the Japanese spirit will live on, just with some significant changes that I hope won't affect its soul too much. But Alan is a bit more practical about the whole thing. You know what I like about you, Al, is that like I was just trying to gently fan-doodle something and whatever, and then you just chop it. Some people think that like collections of metal are like metaphysical. Do you know what I'm saying? Whereas it appears to you that it's like just a bit of metal. I like that.
It was rubber.
I know, but it was connected to a piece of metal.
Yeah.
Do you believe in the spirit the spirit realm?
No.
So what is this to you?
It's a machine.
Yeah. No soul?
It's invented by humans.
Yeah.
To be worked on by humans. So that's why you just change things until it works.
See? That's what I'm talking about. Our first main task of the day is to remove everything connecting the engine to the car. Luckily, there's quite a bit of space in the front of the 240Z because the engine bay is so big, making the removal of the RB quite simple. Just because your car is going to be off the road for a little while because you're working on it doesn't mean that you should let your insurance lapse as well. Shannons Insurance covers all of our cars and they have an option for laid up cover to make sure that your pride and joy is still covered. There's also an option for limited use as well. So check out the Shannons website, have a look at the options there. They also have CTP and also insurance just for your normal working cars as well. So check it out. Now I'm getting back to the Z. We've just disconnected the clutch and we were going to be using the forklift to get it out, but because this engine kind of sits on an angle, we thought it'd be better to finesse it properly with the engine crane. So that is what we're doing, and very, very close to taking this engine out and putting it, Martin, in the...
I don't know, ask your mate.
In its rightful place.
In its rightful place.
Its rightful place. Dude, that's reserved for Honda engines.
I'm not saying it.
That's reserved for Honda engines.
Yeah.
This is too good. Honda engines are good too, but aren't they Honda people?
I don't know. I mean, if you want to know about Honda engines...
Are you going to tell them that we're
ask the expert.
Are you going to tell them?
I don't know anything about Honda engines.
Are you going to tell them?
You're about to.
Okay, cool.
You're
Just
about
tell
to. He's
them.
about...
Just tell them.
Really?
Just tell them that it's getting a K-series.
Should we... Is it... Just... Not yet. Don't tell him yet, Martin.
Just one K-series?
I might have to beep that. We haven't told him yet. Can we go out and up?
Yep.
And with that, the RB engine that has served this car so well and reliably over the years is coming out. The original L series that came with the 240Z was taken out in Japan due to asbestos laws at the time, before we actually imported the car. And while there are some interesting ideas about naturally aspirated builds, the entire intention of buying this car in the first place was to address my interest in a GTR, so the RB engine is staying. But with the current setup, it just doesn't perform in the way that we think it should. And this means completely rethinking the build with a fresh set of eyes, a new set of ideas, and a bunch of newer, more modern parts. And my hope is that when finished, this becomes one of the nicest 240Zs on the planet that is super drivable with excellent power to match. This is an RB26 that originally came from an R33 GTR, the gearbox we had from an R34 GTT, and we actually did this whole conversion with a bunch of very clever people on our backs without a hoist in Mighty Car Mods, which I'm very proud of. But what was even more incredible than all of that is just how much power we made, which was 330 kilowatts at the wheels. Now let's just do some quick numbers to work out our power per tonne. The car itself weighs around 1.1 tonne. So 1.1 to 330, that turns into around 300 kilowatts per tonne. Now when this car originally came out, this engine in an R33, it weighed 1.5 tonne and made around 160 kilowatts at the wheels. So we made over double the power in a car that weighs around 400 kilos less. So if we do the equivalent, 330 kilowatts at the wheels, which is 300 kilowatts per tonne, is the equivalent of 450 kilowatts at the wheels if the car weighed 1.5 tonne, which is around 611 horsepower at the wheels. You still with me? You're writing notes? Here's the only problem. The power curve looks like that, and we want it to do that. What do we do, Al?
There is many things that we can do. This engine is, despite its stature, it's only 2.6 litres, so you can expect it to be a little bit cranky when you put bigger turbos and that sort of thing on them. And also, yes, it does make a lot of power, but yes, it will tend to make power higher in the RPM range. We did account for that at the time. We knew that that was going to be a thing. We knew that the car was very light, so it didn't need to make crazy power. But technology has changed a lot since then. The turbo technology it never stops. It continues marching on. So smaller turbos can now make the same power, but also be a lot more linear in the way they make power, or basically flatten out that area under the curve, which is really what we're trying to achieve here. Mainly because the car's a little bit deadly to drive, as I understand.
Yeah, it's kind of, there's nothing and then everything all in one go, which kind of, it seems exciting and it feels exhilarating, but it doesn't give you good drivability realistically.
Yeah.
And it's probably a thing that's hard to kind of get a gauge of coming across on the internet, but its drivability and day-to-day usability is not great because of that. And obviously we want to try and increase the power under the curve. So
I think we can do that. So we've got a plan. We've, you guys sort of said, oh, hey, you want to help? And I'm like, of course I do. So I sort of reached out to a few other people. There's lots of very smart people in this country and all over the world. So, you know, you got to, what did you say? It takes a
village to build a car.
It takes a village to build a linear RB26 powered 240Z. So
particularly if you've got a village idiot that wants to drive it.
So I asked around a few people. We've also got our turbo supplier experts as well to talk to.
Yeah.
And what we're going to sort of go with is we're going to go with a slightly smaller turbo, but it is a G-Series Garrett turbo rather than an early GDX, because this car was built 6 years ago, I think.
Yeah.
So as I said, a lot of things have changed. Turbo is going to be a bit smaller, which is going to make it come on boost early, which is going to give you more area under the curve. But it's probably going to make the same amount of power or possibly more, because they're just so much better now. The exhaust manifold, we're going with a sort of fairly new sort of design Artec manifold that's like investment cast stainless steel. So there's a lot of benefits to that. They can make the runner size specific to the type of driving and the type of power delivery we want. So there's a big one and a small one, basically. So we're going to go for the smaller runner. So that's how it's sorted. We'll get that working properly. The other half of things are you've got the inlet. These things were designed to make big power, even though they didn't. They were designed for making big power because they were a Group A homologation vehicle. So originally, we took off all these throttle bodies and whatnot and replaced it with a big plenum, and that simplifies things greatly, because you don't have 6 throttles that you've got to sort of balance and all that sort of stuff. But the downside to that is that plenum is also made for big power. So with that, it does change that curve, the area under the curve. It makes it go like this instead of like this.
And when we're talking about big power, we're talking about 1,000?
Oh, yeah, like
plus?
It's more of a drag application sort of stuff. So we're going to change that back to the throttles. And the good thing is that now you can you can use those original throttles, but we can apply drive-by-wire throttle control to them. And also we've got a slightly different shaped plenum to the original to go onto those throttles. So that's really cool, because that will also give you throttle response when it's off boost and that sort of thing. And the last thing we're going to do is fiddle around with cam timing. So everyone would be familiar with the concept of variable valve timing these days, and how much difference it can make to power delivery. This obviously doesn't have variable valve timing, but changing that valve timing mechanically with some adjustable cam gears will yield the same sort of results. The downside being you can't just change it back and forward like you can with an ECU. So we'll look for a good balance, or Scotty will, when you dyno tune it. He'll fiddle around with that cam timing, find a good balance of where it's got power, but it's also got a lot of torque, and then we'll fix it at that. So at the end of it all, we'll have a non-kill deathy version of the RB26 that still makes power.
And we'll be in the current generation.
Yes.
You know, which I think is great. There's obviously a bunch of things that we're doing here that we've just spoken about, but there's a bunch of other little spicy niceties that we're going to be addressing at the same time. We also have a new sump to go on, because this sump, I believe, was from an RD originally and was modified to fit this. It's a little bit low at the moment. The guys did an incredible job on that. That's what we had at the time. So there's a few other little things that you'll see as we go. Before we kick on, just one thing that I did want to address. The car originally came with an L20. We didn't get that engine when the car arrived here. It had to stay in Japan because of the asbestos laws. But a lot of people are like, why don't you just build the L20? Why is that, Al?
Because it's a 2-litre 6 from 1970, and it's very, very difficult to make good out of them. Usually people, well, if it was an Australian car, it would have had a 2.4 litre in it to begin with, then 2.6. Most people, if they are building a monster L engine, would go with a 2.8 and then sometimes stroke them and stuff. But you could probably buy 3 of these for the cost of that. Like,
right.
It's not good value for money.
Yeah.
It is pure. Yes, they do sound great, but it's not a very, very economical way of making the car fast and cool. I personally think the GDR engine is one of the most iconic appearing engines. It just,
I agree.
You open that bonnet and that lean and the way the covers are built and everything, it's just unmistakable.
Yes.
It's a very, they've got a lot of character. Hopefully Scotty can dial in some lumpy idle in there and stuff like that. So to me, I think it's the best engine to swap into that car for sure.
I agree, and I think the other thing that's really important is that it's really easy to kind of sit back when people are doing builds, whether they're building a house or doing anything, and give 100 different opinions on why it should be a certain way. But the whole reason that this car existed is because I wanted to get a Skyline, a GTR, and I couldn't do that because they just cost too much. And so in a way, this was kind of my way of kind of melding the two worlds, of kind of getting a car that I really loved, but also an engine that I wanted in a car that I couldn't afford. So that's kind of why that exists. So anyway, for now, we have got some new parts arriving, which we will run through with you, and then put this all together and continue building what I think is my favourite car in the Mighty Car Mods garage. Our next job is removing this sump, which we created ourselves, but you can see has been too low. And we're replacing that with one that we found online that is specifically made for 240Zs that are running an RB engine.
City skies going dim. There's so much noise, but I'm still whispering. Do you still need me? Like I need you, or has everything we were now gone away? Do you still need me? Like I need you, or has everything we were now gone away?
Our new sump is baffled and gated, and we're just going to sit it in place to make sure it actually fits, and once we know that everything's perfect, we can goo it up and install it properly. You can really see the difference in size of the sumps here when you look at their profile, which is going to give this car that all-important ground clearance that it so desperately needed. Because the last thing you want when you're driving is worrying that you're going to be smashing your sump, particularly when you're chopping your mate's RX-7. Our new sump also comes with this oil pickup that is specifically made to fit. As mentioned, our new sump is gated and baffled, but do you find that baffling? Well, let's find out. This is our new sump that we bought off the internet. It is baffled, which is this part, and gated, which is these things that, yes, you're right, that is just a door hinge. But you can see beyond the door hinge, there's channels there that oil can flow unless there's enough inertia pushing this way, which will close that hinge and therefore create a gate. And the idea of that is that we always want to make sure that there's enough oil here for the pickup, which is there. How does that compare to the old one?
Because this was an RD28 sump, which is like your diesel version of an RB, it's out of a Nissan Patrol. So originally this had a bit of a staircase and that cap was about down here somewhere. So when we shortened it and welded that cap back on, which was as best we could do at the time, but it's actually like a little bit too low as we found out. That's why we're doing this. But this is kind of how they would go with a factory sump. It doesn't have any of that stuff in it because it's for a Patrol. It's never going to corner. Its main purpose is to keep the oil down for when you're climbing hills and stuff like that. These things here that looks like louvers, that's like a windage tray. So the crank's spinning and oil's flicking off it. That's there to grab that oil and direct it straight back down into the sump where you need it. So the idea is to always have oil around the pickup. The second that you don't, you have no oil pressure and your engine lasts seconds.
Kablamo.
Yes.
Now, I have seen sumps before that are kind of winged.
Yep.
And on the side of the wings, they've got literally like metal flaps that kind of are doing this.
Yep.
I've never seen, like, they're straight up door hinges from Bunnings. Is that a common thing?
It's not uncommon for custom stuff to use it because it's just fit for purpose and
And it works.
costs nothing. So, yeah.
Great.
There's other ways of doing it, but if it works, it works. So
It's a machine
Yeah.
made by humans
that's definitely made by humans. So
to be worked on by humans.
this one's made by a machine.
So we're basically going to go get some schmoo, do all of that, put it on, and then that part's finished. And then what are we doing after that?
We will have a look at the timing belt setup, change those pulleys over, I guess.
I'm getting too excited. Don't say any more.
Okay.
Because I know what you're about to say after that.
What? I don't. Oh, turbos. I believe we have turbos en route.
En route right now.
We're drilling out a hole in the pan so our dipstick will fit and still function. A step drill makes short work of the aluminium, and then we can schmoo the sump, spread it out and bolt it down. It comes with new fasteners that look mad. Next, we're going to take off the timing cover and balancer so we can get to the timing gears. Our plan is to upgrade the intake cam to an adjustable type. This will give us control over the relationship of the crank, exhaust and intake cam to optimise the volumetric efficiency of the engine, which will assist in tuning. The too long didn't listen version is more power. On modern cars, these kind of adjustments can actually be made on the fly using oil-controlled solenoids. It balances out low-end torque and top-end power, and in our case, getting this just right should get our turbo to spool quickly for a punchy mid-range. This will all be stuff we'll be able to fine-tune once we're on the dyno, and to see the differences, we'll need to do back-to-back runs to show a shift in power or torque delivery. It's possible to change the exhaust cam gear to an adjustable one, but our advice is that the intake one will make a bigger difference for the kind of drivability that we're after. By using the existing exhaust cam, we don't have to install a whole new triggering setup, and that means the car should start and run straight away. We can then reinstall the belt, make sure the timing is correct, and put everything back together.
We are upgrading our turbo for this build, and we're about to show you what that is. But because of that, we are also upgrading our exhaust manifold. And this here is a reverse rotation, fast response exhaust manifold by Artec. Look at that, Martin.
So
and it's
good.
made by melting things.
Exactly. Investment cast stainless steel. So it'll always look really, really, really nice. And unlike pieces that are welded together, it's tricky to get the merge right. There's all like limitations on the side of the runners. This can be made exactly the size they want. And the merge in there where it all comes together and shoots it into the turbo is very, very smooth. Plus you've also got this nice priority for the wastegate, which is important for accurate boost control.
Now, there is a bigger one if you want to make like ridiculous power drag cars and stuff like this. This is a smaller version, but it gives you lots of different options for turbos of a smaller size through to medium through to larger size. and V-band, Martin.
That's right, and not much wrong with that old one. That was great, but it was T4 and it was very, very big. So it's kind of designed for big turbos. Puts the turbo right up the front where you need lots of space. This will package up really nicely, gives us lots of turbo options, and again, fast response, which is what this is about.
Now is probably about the right time to show you our turbocharger, and I'm very excited. That's his excited face. This was sent over by our MTQ Engine Systems, and it's even got little chop fingers. It's almost like they knew where it was going. Alan, this is like, have you seen Raiders of the Lost Ark? They open the thing and the faces melt.
It was a long time ago, but yeah.
I think that's
that
what's
what's gonna
about to happen. And as this opens, you'll hear the sound of your people. Listen to this. All right, there you go, Alan.
This is like a kid's birthday party where you just have boxes and boxes and... So a lot of your turbos that you'll get nowadays are going to come as a supercore, which is in there, which means no exhaust housing, but a compressor housing, and you buy this separate because these are all different sizes. V-band, flanges, internal wastegate, all different things. So that stays the same. This is different depending on your application. So they usually come like this nowadays.
It's time, Alan.
Shannons.
Oh, so modern.
Can you tell that it's backwards?
No, I can't.
It's backwards.
How?
Because it's not forwards. Cool, hey.
What? Why? Because isn't backwards just forwards in reverse?
It is. That's correct. So you said you didn't know.
If I'm walking forwards, right, like this, and now this is me walking backwards in reverse.
No, it's like you looking in a mirror. It's like you taking a selfie.
Yeah.
It's the same thing, except for your shirt reads backwards and it's stupid.
But how does that make me go faster? Walk over there. Walk towards me. Good. Now go backwards over there. Now, see how you just walked backwards? Do that in reverse. See, it's still going forward.
Yeah.
So,
What are you talking about? Science.
look, if I do this, air goes on your face. If I do that, air goes on your
Yeah,
face.
exactly. That's what this does. It doesn't make any difference. It's just backwards.
But it's not faster because it's in reverse.
Yeah, it is.
It's been a massive session on the 240Z. So much got done thanks to our mate, Al. What an absolute boss.
Talented.
This car, I think, is going to be the creme de la creme of the Mighty Car Mods fleet.
I would argue that I might have some cars that are better, but what I will say is
What do you have that's better? Don't. Dude,
No,
come
don't.
on, man. Don't do
No,
that.
don't. Don't worry about that for a minute. It's not about that. What's it about is that you optimise the thing you have to make it as good as you possibly can using the technology and skills that's available to you. And what I'm very happy about is that we're updating this. Even though it's only been 5 years or so, we are updating it to make it even better. The basics are here, but now with our bolt-ons and our turbos and a few little changes here and there, it's going to be way, way better to drive and should actually make it more fun.
That sump is pretty cool.
very
And that
cool.
was eBay sump, did
It's
you
just
say?
a random eBay sump, man.
Wow.
Yep, it was a gamble because we knew the sump wasn't quite right. We bought it, just went, let's cross our fingers, and it seems to, so far, have worked out.
That's amazing. Well, next episode, turbo's going on, inlet manifolds going. No, ITBs, Martin.
Yeah, we're actually
We've spoken about that yet?
completely. No, that's we'll talk about it next episode. We're going to change this site up completely and go back to a little bit how Mr. Nissen did it and a little bit of current technology.
It's going to be amazing. If you do want to support the show, of course, we do have for a limited time the 240Z posters. So check them out. If you click on the link and it says sold out, it means they're gone. But right now, if you get in early, you can get yourself one. We will
right.
autograph it and we'll send it to you anywhere in the world.
Only special cars get that treatment.
Only the best of the best. I would argue the creme de la creme of the Mighty Car Mods fleet. Wouldn't you agree,
cars.
Martin?
Of your cars. Of the cars that you have championed, I would say probably yes. Although your Mini's cool too, man. That's a tough one.
Yeah. Mini RX-7 or 240Z, order them from 1 to 3, just real quick.
RX-7 Mini 240Z.
No, it's 240Z Mini RX-7.
We'll just argue about this.
Check the
after.
comments, you'll see.
Turn the internet off, and then we'll argue about it a
Okay.
bit for the next
all
3
right,
days.
See you next episode where 240Z things will continue. Thank you, Alan.
What a mad dog.
What a legend. Look at him go. Just cuddle him. If you ever see him in the street and he consents, cuddle him.
Or just maybe a high five to start with.
Or just kind of wave and keep walking.
Hey, Al.
Hi, mate.
A handshake.
That'll do.
Yeah.
Or a fist bump.
I'm old school.
Oh, okay. He's old school, likes a handshake.
But it's weird. You go for a handshake and then you get this.
All right. Or if that's called the Pac-Man. If you do that and I do that. There's a fine line between old school and mold school, isn't there? What?
What are you talking about?
I don't know.